Now, I always say that you need to limit the number of drafts that you produce in creating an RFP. And if you're doing that in-house yourself, you know, I'm a writer, so I never read anything I've written when I can't find a way to say it better. Every single draft, I keep editing, I can change, I can find words to say better. And as a marketer, I found I think of another reason why this project was a good example. But the point is, in order to respond to RFPs, you're going to have to limit how many times you keep editing and changing things. So arbitrarily say you're going to create a draft, you're going to review it, one person's going to review it, and then you're going to send it out. All right? You can't work on it forever. And also, if people think that they have time to keep revising forever, they won't put in the effort on that first draft, and you really want to put your best effort in on the first draft so that you only review it one more time. Again, I'm just repeating what I've already said. Schedule your deadlines so that you have time for that final read, because that's part of it. I said to schedule your deadlines so that you have time to package and send it out. But you really do want somebody to read it once through before it goes out. Now, I don't know how many of you keep a mock-up. I don't know, in this digital age, people have a tendency to produce everything online. And I happen to be a visual person, and I kind of like to see things getting produced, especially when I know I have to produce physical copies. So what I always like to do is, as soon as somebody gave me an approval, if I was working on like 4 copies, I'd have the tabs and things ready, and I'd start filtering in the finished pieces. And the other thing, and I'm going to give you a really low-tech tip that I used, I would put a yellow sheet in for anything that was missing. So for example, if somebody in the firm was creating a bar chart schedule for me, I'd put a yellow sheet in the section where the schedule went, and then at the end, when like when things start getting crazy, as you're trying to get the last pieces all put together, I could easily see that there was something missing. I said it before, less is more. Be concise, be clear. You know, the GSA gave a talk on RFP production a couple of years ago. They said they spend 18 minutes reviewing a proposal. Okay? 18 minutes. Wouldn't you rather give them something they could actually read in 18 minutes? How many 3-page resumes do you think they're really going to look at? Because that's the other question that people always ask me. How long should the resumes be? They should be 1 page. They should be edited so that they have the projects and the experience of the individuals on them is perfectly tailored to match the project you're going after. Now, my experience and working with firms where I had many resumes to contend with, I always kept what was called a master library resume. I'd have a resume folder, and then I would have a subfolder inside that resume folder for each individual. And then inside their folder, I would have their library resume that contained everything about them. The date they started, their social security number, maybe their passport number. Anytime I got information from them that I had to find them and hunt them down to get that information, I threw it into that master file. It was an information. It was a resume that was never used for a proposal, but it was a resume that was information based. I could find anything I needed to know about that individual in that resume. And then I would create a school's resume, a hospital resume, an airport resume, and so on. Okay? In your proposals, don't put too much technical jargon. For example, Don indicated acronyms. You know, engineers sometimes forget that people don't have any clue as to what the acronyms they're introducing into an RFP are. They're surrounded by people all day long who know what they're talking about, and then when they go to speak to other individuals about it, they use acronyms that no one knows. I have a sister who's a nurse who does the same thing. She'll use this nursing terminology explaining something that happened, and I go, I have no idea what you're talking about. What does that mean? So be careful that the terminology you use in your RFPs in particular don't contain language that a non-technical person won't understand. Now, quality control. I'm going to guess that nobody in this room has a big enough, well, I shouldn't say that, but most of you probably don't have a large enough firm to have someone else do what's called a red team review. A red team review is when someone not involved in the RFP at all reads the RFP before it's completed. That is in the best of all possible worlds, the situation that you have. The challenge of a red team review is having somebody come in and go, well, why didn't you use these other projects? In other words, now they have a different strategy for how they would have presented the firm's qualifications. The red team review is really a check. It's not a point to introduce a new strategy, because the time for that is over. The strategy is developed at the strategy session, and come hell or high water, you really need to stick to it in order to have an effective proposal. Okay? But the other purpose is to make sure that the proposal is responsive to the requirements, and it's a final proofread. Okay? So somebody should be doing that. Now, at the end, I had these questions. Sorry. I recommend that everybody take an old proposal. Maybe take one where you won a job and take one where you didn't win. And ask yourself this set of questions. Reread that proposal now, out of the madness of the time in which you're trying to turn something out. Was it responsive to the RFP? And these are the questions that you can also use as you're getting ready to put the RFP to bed and send it out, okay? Is it responsive? Does it demonstrate that we understand the project? The project approach that clients ask for is your best opportunity to explain how you would approach this project on behalf of the client. It's your best opportunity to demonstrate that you understand the project and the problems that you're facing. Okay? Dawn made reference to the same thing. Do you anticipate that there could be problems? I said, you know how many times, I wish I had $1 for every time I sat in a situation where people would look at the RFP and go, they can't possibly do it for this budget, but you know what, we're going to put the RFP in anyway. So I, as a little marketing coordinator, would sit there and wonder, well, what is the point of going after this project when you know that you're going to run over the budget? To me, if in your RFP you say, in our experience, like in that other section or additional information that they ask for, if you say, in our experience, this project, this scope of services cannot be accomplished for the proposed budget, but this is what we think can be accomplished. Up to this phase is what could be successfully accomplished. I have to tell you, I think you're going to be in a much better position than if you put in an RFP with a fee that you can't do the job for, and then ask for lots of add-ons later on. I mean, when I've conducted client surveys for clients, where I've contacted clients to find out what their opinion of a firm is, that was one of the complaints that I would get. Well, this firm really has to learn how to, create a realistic budget for a project and stick to it. If you come in and say, this is what it'll cost to do what we understand, but we can't know the full scope of the work until we conduct the preliminary survey. all right? That shows that you've done this before and that you understand what you're talking about. So you want to point out potential problems.